Welcome to the Explainer. So, we are currently right in the middle of a massive paradigm shift in education. The arrival of generative AI hasn't just tweaked things, it's completely disrupted how we think about teaching, learning, and maybe most importantly, grading. We're no longer just looking at a finished product anymore, we are navigating an entirely new landscape of intellectual ownership. Okay, let's dive right into this because this is the defining critical question of our time in education. And let's be honest, it's the cause of more than a little panic in traditional classrooms. If an AI can pump out a perfectly structured, well-researched essay in mere seconds, how on earth do we know what the student actually learned? How do we verify their intellectual authenticity? Well, that is exactly the challenge we're unpacking today, looking closely at how we absolutely must adapt our assessment strategies.
Here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, AI as an educational partner. 2, streamlining educator workloads. 3, the shift to process. 4, strategies to verify authorship. And 5, cultivating transparent cultures.
Section 1. AI as an educational partner. Before we throw AI into the mix, let's quickly set the baseline for the very real challenges educators and pedagogical leaders are facing today. Think about the role of a program coordinator. It is incredibly demanding. They carry these heavy administrative and pedagogical burdens, basically acting as the vital bridge between the school, international standards, and daily program management. They're guiding pedagogy, managing evaluation evidence, coordinating professional learning. It's a massive job that requires balancing high-level strategy with deeply time-consuming daily tasks.
Section 2. Streamlining educator workloads.
But what happens when we flip the script? What if we bring AI in to actually help manage this burden? We can start to see AI not as some looming threat, but as a highly capable collaborative partner. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that partnership works. By utilizing AI, it can instantly handle curriculum mapping, convert meeting transcripts into minutes, and even provide really consistent formative feedback on unit planners. By taking over these routine yet complex tasks, AI frees up coordinators and teachers to engage in much deeper, much more meaningful coaching and curriculum conversations.
To give you a concrete example of this efficiency from our source material, there was a curriculum expert tasked with mapping complex career-related program outcomes to the Japanese national curriculum. Now, without AI, this rigorous process would have taken days and required a highly bilingual expert. But by using AI as a planning partner, they completed the mapping in just 5 minutes. And the result was robust enough to be approved by the Japanese government. I mean, that is the macro power of AI right there.
Section 3. The shift to process. All right, here is where we really need to make a massive narrative pivot. If we know that AI can generate all of this content instantly for us as educators, we have to directly address how our students are using it. We're moving from a traditional assessment model to a true AI-era model. For decades, traditional assessment was heavily, almost exclusively focused on the final product, right? The finished essay, the completed project. But AI has fundamentally broken that model. The advent of AI is a catalyst, forcing us to change how we measure original thought. We can no longer just look at the output. We absolutely have to focus on the process and the dialogue that actually got the student there.
And that brings us to what might be the most important concept of this entire explainer: intellectual authenticity. In the age of generative AI, authenticity is no longer just about running a plagiarism checker. It's about the verifiable ownership of a student's critical thinking. It is their questioning abilities. It's their evaluation skills. Empowering educators to look beyond the finished essay really means equipping them to assess how a student thinks, not just what they ultimately produce.
Section 4. Strategies to verify authorship.
So the crucial point is, how do we actually do this in practice? We need strictly process-oriented strategies. Drawing directly from our source material, we can break this down into 3 distinct steps. Step 1. Implement AI logs. Make it a requirement for students to document exactly when and how they used AI. Step 2. Record the actual conversations the student had with the AI. And step 3. Use an ethics check rubric to systematically evaluate the student's transparency throughout the whole process. Now, what's really interesting about this strategy is the explicit guidance on how to prove authorship. You prove it by analyzing the student's conversation with the AI tool alongside their finished product. You aren't just reading their final paper anymore. You're looking at the prompts they wrote, the specific questions they asked the AI, and how they took that data and refined it. You are assessing their genuine, authentic inquiry process. To make this process safe and effective, educators can actually build custom GPTs tailored specifically for their students. By training these custom chatbots strictly on provided sources and, this is key, disabling web searches, you drastically reduce errors and those weird AI hallucinations. These custom models can provide students with instant, formative feedback on their project work without actually doing the grading or the heavy critical thinking for them. You can even load in models of previously assessed work so students use the AI to analyze how others successfully met the criteria, which really refines their own evaluation skills. I want to read this quote from the IBEC Bilingual Research Library because it gives these strategies some serious academic weight. How can discussions with generative AI be used as a valid learning experience and as evidence that a learner understands and owns the thinking represented in a final product? The answer we're finding is that the AI-supported dialogue itself is now valid evidence of learning. The conversation they have with the machine is the literal proof of their thought process.
Section 5. Cultivating transparent cultures.
But to make any of these strategies actually work, modeling AI literacy is an absolute necessity. Coordinators and teachers have to model ethical, transparent, and source-grounded AI use during their staff meetings and live teaching sessions. Look, if we want students to keep AI logs and honestly disclose their tool usage, educators need to demonstrate that proper verification and disclosure right on the screen in front of them. We have to show them exactly where the AI's limits are. So here is a final, highly actionable takeaway for you to implement. You need to build the infrastructure for this transparency. Go ahead and draft clear AI disclosure templates for your syllabus or your classroom and build those ethics check rubrics. When tool usage is highly visible, structured, and completely transparent from day one, that underlying anxiety around authorship begins to fade, and it gets replaced by a genuine focus on intellectual engagement.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought that I think perfectly summarizes our whole paradigm shift today. When you look at student work tomorrow, ask yourself, are you just assessing the final product, or are you assessing the critical thinking it took to create it? Because in the AI era, getting a polished product is easy. It's the process, the dialogue, and the intellectual authenticity that truly matter. Thanks so much for joining this explainer.